And welcome to another exciting adventure on the energy that surrounds us. I'm your host, Michael. And tonight's guest, I have to say, we just recently met face to face, if you can call that on screen. And we've been laughing and cutting it up, waiting for the show to go live. So I can fully state you guys are going to have a fun night tonight. We have a lot of great topics, and so I'm not going to sit here and try to even hold a candle by explaining everything that Cynthia can do. Instead, I am going to let her share with you what she wants to share. And so I'm going to turn it over to my awesome, amazing, one of a kind, funny, brilliant. I could go on, but we would not get any topics in. So, with that being said, I give you the amazing Cynthia Whitney.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Michael. This is really exciting. Spiritualism, ghost hunting, all has transformed my life, and I think throughout the years, uh, just the phenomena has been grabbing on to me here. So I'm a member of the First Spiritualist Church of Onset, Massachusetts, and it is um, a church dedicated to proving the continuity of life. Um, and I also am the founder of the Spookiest Things Experiences in the Paranormal. And we take thrill seekers on explorations of different um, active properties in all of New England, mostly Massachusetts, but we're getting into New Hampshire and Rhode Island. Recently went down to Exeter, Rhode Island to check out my friend Mercy Brown. And she's a vampire. He's buried down in Exeter, Rhode Island. And so just learning um, about the soul and the spirit frequencies and the different dimensions that we're in, along with going out and trying to document this activity and communicate with these spirits and let them tell their story or two worlds colliding for me. So I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about it.
And I am excited as well. And I am just surprised that we even got a question before I even got to ask a question in the chat room. That is a first, I think. So I'm gonna see what you think of this question. So Seth McBrayer, I think it's I3M, is asking, "What do you believe in?"
Well, what do I see? What do I believe in? So I struggled with the religion probably, all my life. I believe certain parts, but then there was discernment there, and there were certain parts of Christianity or Catholicism or paganism that it meant certain parts of it made sense, and then other parts didn't make sense. And what I found was that I'm an omniist, and omniists are all religions. I believe all religions are right in a sense, and there is a common denominator with all of them. And with spiritualism, where I found myself at the First Spiritualist Church of Onset, one of their principles is the golden rule. We come here with nothing, and we leave here with nothing, is what I know. And I know how we treat each other here is probably what matters. And the energy that we have goes into 12 different dimensions, and those dimensions have frequencies and bands, and we're able to communicate with different forms of energy at different times. And I believe that souls stay with you, when they do you wrong. I think that when we pass away, we see our life flash before our eyes. But maybe one thing that they don't say is that you see it from the point of view of everyone that you've ever encountered in your whole life, and you relive these moments that you might have needed to learn a lesson, and you relive them until you make right with them. So forgiveness is really important, but different energies give off different vibes, and you're responsible for your happiness and your own unhappiness in your thoughts. And when you get a hold of those things, the possibilities are endless for you. Um, the spirits that I've come across are all different types. There's some that have, I think, are caught in a certain time, and there's others that there's a great location in Abington, Massachusetts, at the point of the Bridgewater Triangle. It's part of the Warner Paranormal collection of properties. So shout out to them over there. They do a great job. We had a conversation with a woman who died in 2019. She didn't die tragically. Her name was Dorothy Hurt, and she had a conversation with us through a spirit box. And then I've been in the cellar of Mrs. Smith's Antiques and More in East Bridgewater, Massachusetts, which is probably one of the most active locations that I've ever been in. And we're having a conversation with, a fella that might be a killer of some sort in their basement. And there's probably a lot of tragic things that happened down there. But they're both able to communicate with us. Um, and so it leads me to believe that you just don't die. I think the Bible, that's the first thing it tells us is we don't die. We live forever. I believe that to be true. But depending on frequencies and energy, is when it's able to come in and out.
That's really cool. And for everyone that watches the show, and I think I startled you when I backed up right away, kind of stunned looking, is because, and I'll share this in full transparency, my ring light was on spiral with colors, and I'm nowhere near it, and now it's on bright white. It like totally changed on its own, and I was like, what? So I don't know if you have a friend that likes to mess with stuff that's having fun over here.
Yeah. So I did listen to some Moonlight Sonata. Some music and vibrations are really important during our services at the Spiritualist Church. Before the medium gets up to speak and give readings and messages, we sing. And it's one of the funnest things about the church is that we sing fun songs to raise the vibration. So before, I turned on my phone here to meet with you, Michael. I did do a nice deep meditation with the Moonlight Sonata, and I asked, if anybody wanted to come forward and help me show, that they're not that far away. They're actually right there with us all the time. Everyone has spirit guides, and everyone should humble themselves to ask for what they want because the possibilities are endless. You can have anything that you want, and you can have any kind of life you want. You are 100% responsible for your happiness and unhappiness, and you just have to ask. And there's spirit guides that are with you to assist you. You have to do your part, but they are there to assist you. You just have to say it out loud and ask. And my friends throughout the years, they think I'm crazy when I say that, and then they go ahead and they try it, and it always have faith and patience, and it never fails.
I totally agree, and I love talking with the spirit guides. And one thing that's interesting about spirit guides is they're different from like guardian angels and stuff because like guardian angels have the concept of being around from birth till current. They're always there. Where spirit guides, they come and go. They're there to help you with certain paths, and once you learn it, they're like adios. Have a
Yeah, a
great
new one
one.
might come in. Yeah. I had recently a class, mediumship development class at the church last Wednesday. We had a great speaker, Patricia Melman. Give her a shout out because she's absolutely incredible. She's an astrologist. Yeah, I was always, here I am trying to communicate with different energies that are no longer here in this physical form. And she taught me how to pull forth your spirit guides. So I did a nice deep meditation. I asked them to come forward. The first one was a Native American. You could see his headdress came through. And then I had a Minuteman from the Revolutionary War come through. I had an older woman that was, pleased to make it to a late age. And finally, a man that was cloaked out like a Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I was really excited because you should ask for protection. And I don't really believe in demons anymore, to be honest with you. Sometimes I get disappointed with the movies because I think they give ghosts and paranormal a bad rap because of the entertainment. Maybe scare people a little bit, but they're not scary. They're just like us, but just in a different form and on a different frequency. And they're not very too far away. My first guru, teacher of this back in 2021, Ray Booten. He's a great man. You can listen to him on a podcast called Mostly Closely on Spotify. He taught me so much. My first channeling session he did on a podcast with me. And we were at a property amazing property in Weymouth, Massachusetts, called the Emery Estate. And the Emery Estate is a duplica of Mount Vernon. The Emerys loved George Washington so much that they built a replica of George Washington's home, Mount Vernon, right outside Boston, Massachusetts. And you can go in and tour it. And they were very religious people, and we're in the cellar and the desks are set up and we've got the spirit box, and I hear some like explorative language come through, like some F-bombs, and I'm like, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, are these demons? And he looked at me and said, Cynthia, if you were just sitting in your living room and a bunch of strangers walked in, and they started like touching your stuff and walking around your house, like, what words would you have to say for them? And I looked at him and said, wow, like, I probably would have some four letters for them as well. I'm not a demon, so but that's a great location. If you're ever in Boston, you should definitely reach out to those that give the tours over there, or you can message me. We'll book a tour for you. It's an absolutely incredible property.
That's really cool. And I was in Boston as a wee little lad, and I got to tour and walk around on the Constitution and go to Plymouth Rock and Paul Revere's, and did the whole Boston Freedom Trail and got to go to Salem. And the one thing that kind of interested me was it's like it's interesting because you would think with all the history and everything that happened there with the revolution and everything, you would go there and like it would be so thick. It would be so like you couldn't help but feel it and everything. And honestly, when I think back as a kid, I don't think I really ever felt that much pressure or that much like paranormal like energy in the air, so to speak. But I've often wondered if I go back now, knowing what I know now, how much different would it be? Would it be really prevalent or would it be the same? Has it kind of over the centuries, has everybody calmed down and everything's kind of settled? So everyone's happy now with what's going on, or, you know,
Yeah, or what you're paying attention to, because in mediumship studying, you like in class, I was channeling a young man, and I wasn't sure who this message was for, but I could feel him like maybe like skiing, and I've never been skiing ever before in my life, but I felt like I was like skiing, and then I hit a tree, and I could feel like the sensation in my body and stuff. And so that's really it, is trusting what your body is feeling in what you're seeing. And if we're not, a lot of times when we're looking for messages from loved ones that pass, we're so busy in our day to day, and we're just so unaware that we're getting a message or that the spirits are around, because we're just kind of like doing our thing. But if you just take a moment, and even when, especially now that I'm a bit more educated in it, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're giving you messages all the time. And it just thought maybe we just weren't paying attention before. So maybe before, when you went, it was more of you were doing your thing, and now you're sensitive to it. You're aware that they possibly could be. They're everywhere. You're never alone. You can tell them to leave you alone while you're like having private moments. For all of us, you can tell them, don't come in here, and they have to listen to you. I learned that on the USS Salem. I took some classes, like whatever you ask of the spirits, whether they're honorary or not, or I don't want to say mean, because I don't know if they're mean. But you can ask them, and they will do, and they have to. We're vibrating on a very high level, and those spirits are vibrating on a very low level. Um, and so, but when you start recognizing frequencies, you start recognizing them more and more around. So I'm not sure if that's maybe a difference for you when you're more aware of it consciously. It could be, but everywhere I go now, I pick things up.
Yeah, that's true. And because I was more there for the history and paying attention to the history than the paranormal history.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'm kind of curious your thoughts around is when you're going through and doing these tours, or you're going through and going on the ships and everything, when you sense and feel the presence of a spirit around, do you see it and know what genre or era it's from? Or are you one of those that's like, well, I'm on a boat, so it must be a sailor, and you just start talking to it as if it's a sailor because that's the environment you're in?
No, I'm still in training, but no. Another great location is S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts. An absolutely incredible free. It wasn't a Freemasonry lodge, but it was built by a Freemason who like lived there, and he had a factory across the street, a furniture factory. And I went with a great group of gals called the OPP, the Other People's Paranormal Group. They are um, the best of the best. They have great folks on there, and they have brought a newbie. Her name was Angela, and we were sitting on the floor, and we had the grids up, and we're trying to channel the ghosts of the S.K. Pierce, mansion. And in the meantime, what I'm seeing in my head is, and I sometimes hear them, sometimes see the shadows. But when I close my eyes, I see visions, and sometimes I got to figure out what I'm seeing. But what I was seeing was like a butterfly or a fish, something with like this wing thing going on. And it kept bringing my attention to Angela next to me. Um, and I never met her before, and I don't even know what her name was at the time, but I was very drawn to her. It was just making me drawn. Here I am, like I've got another medium with me, and we got our hands, and we're trying to like channel the ghosts of the S.K. Pierce Masons. But it's pulling me over to her, and I'm like, "Do you have kids?" And what I'm seeing, is that there is like this stuffed animal, yeah, and it's either like a fish or maybe like a butterfly. It's got some wings. And then I saw a flash of the Jesus fish. And so now I knew it was a fish. And I was getting away from the butterfly, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about." Like, I really don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, there's like this connection there with this stuffed animal, this fish, something, and her dad had recently passed. Um, and that Monday I get to work and I'm at work just kind of like I just kind of like brushed it off like whatever, and she sent me a message and she took a picture of this stuffed fish that was on her daughter's bed that she just didn't even know that she didn't even realize it was there. So when they have a message, it really doesn't matter what you're doing or what you're trying, you're going to get the message and try to connect it with who it's for. And you can resist it all you want, as I tried to do, and try to focus on just, channeling in, who we were there for. But in the meantime, this girl's recently passed dad. They were very close. Um, it was hard a death for her. My heart goes out to her because you could see how close she was to her dad, to not have him anymore. But like I said, they're always giving you signs, and so and she was sure I was just like absolutely nuts. Like she has two little girls. Why would they have a stuffed fish? Not to be gender biased, but why would they have a stuffed fish? And they did. And so that message was there, and that is her dad letting her know that he's there with her. We just have to, just pause for a minute and allow ourselves to get the message.
Yeah, that's very true. And what's interesting is the signs, we keep talking about, like, the signs being easily missed. And one of the favorite ones that I always hear about and people are the first to dismiss is, like, you could be walking in a room and you smell a flower, but there's no flowers around. And they're like, yeah, I thought I smelt it, but I didn't. I was like, no, you did. It was there. That was a message for you. And that's just an example of one of the ones that gets most commonly missed because we just are so easy to dismiss it as, oh,
Mhm.
that's not a sign. That was just a memory. And it's like, okay, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Nope. People, because I think just um, it's hard to believe, but for me, I see it over and over again, and it never becomes old to me when I'm able to see the connection. We had a great speaker this weekend on Sunday at church, and she was, reaching out to someone that there was a fall, like he was falling into his passing, and someone raised their hand, and sure enough, it was a diving accident. And but she had to trust what she was feeling to give that message, and that she was having the feeling that she was falling. And for some, and when you see it happen right in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh! Like the same thing with the fish with the girl, or just it's so many different experiences that I've had where there's always the possibility of coincidences, of course, but sometimes they're just so close that it's almost like, how is that even? It has to be, because I see it over and over again. It never gets boring. It never gets dull. It never gets old because it's so miraculous. And especially when you see people that are so heartbroken over the loss of their loved ones, death is really hard for some people to swallow. But again, in the Bible, and 365 times it mentions, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just trust and have faith, and be open to the messages, and you will get them. You certainly will get them, and you'll have what you need. It's just that we're so programmed to think that it can't be that easy, but it really is.
And so I have a interesting question for you. Were you into the paranormal before you got into spiritualism, or did it come around at the same time?
It's been a lifetime journey, and when I was young, I didn't even realize, that I was taking steps towards where I am right now. And every moment of my life just kind of was the building block to get me where I am. My mom had me baptized Catholic. I went to Christian churches. I studied paganism. I um, sought out Kabbalah. I sought out Jewish mysticism. I wanted to know about it all because I really wanted to know the truth. And like I just random places. Went to a trip with my friend for her wedding in Texas, down at the Black Swan Inn, and I was able to photograph my first orb, and there's just no doubting it. And it was at a time where there was not Photoshop; it was the click, go get your film developed days, and that orb was there for me. And the next thing you know, different homes that I lived in had activity. And then I had a really cool job at a nightclub in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And this particular location was just beyond. The whole street was haunted. My boss let me stay in one of his apartments across the street, and me and the girl that stayed there with me, the things would fly across the room. We would have smells. We would smell cigarettes. It was out of control at the club. Bottles would fly off of the shelf. I would be locking it up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and bang, you'd hear like doors slamming in the cellar. So one day, a friend of mine came to me and said there is a film production company, Boombastic Films, and they're filming a movie, and they'd like you to come in and be a consult. And so I met Matt Fisher. He is which is now Boombastic Media. He I just helped him out on some little films, just like whatever he needed to get his films made, just help him out. And in 2020, we were all given the pandemic, and Matt really went over to podcasts, and he started mostly ghostly, and he had me on, and we had a great episode where we talked about my experiences at the club, and just different avenues in education that I had gotten throughout the years. And then we decided to start going out and checking out some of these locations. And at a couple locations, we met some great people. Different teams formed, and then I needed to get, I wanted more, pretty much. And not so much did I want to just run into the building and prove that there was paranormal activity going on there. I wanted to know why. And I found the Onset Spiritualist Church, where I said they proved the continuity of life. They believe in infinite intelligence. They believe that you can heal yourself, and they believe that everyone is able to change, and emotions. You know, they are very, very powerful. Forgiveness, very powerful. It transforms. And at that church, Reverend Kathleen Hoffman, changed my world. Maybe I was a little bit angry year before. Maybe I talk to people a little bit more kinder now, because I know that, like I mentioned before, we come here with nothing and we leave with nothing, and your actions resonate in all of the dimensions, and it's really important for us to be kind to each other, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn, and experience this human experience, and help each other. Souls pick, their story when you come here. You pick how it's going to go, and I have a lot of questions that needed to be answered, and spiritualism gave me those answers, and they made sense to me when what's a tough question, when people say, how can God take like a baby? Ooh, this is a tough one. Ooh, sensitive. How can we be so mad, at God for taking a baby? And what I learned is that, there are new souls, and they bleep in and out. They're like, do I want to be part of this or not? And they bleep out, and they pick, who their parents are going to be. And this is their moment where they come in, and then they go out. They choose to go out. I don't look at death the same anymore. It doesn't, because I know it's not final. And especially when you see people who are so heartbroken about their loved ones, when they can just say and talk to them, you know, it means a lot, and it resonated with me, and their beliefs in transformation and reformation are extremely powerful. Reverend Kathleen, it brings me into the topic of the Ho'oponopono prayer, Joe Vitale's Zero Limits. You're capable of anything in this world. With the phrase, "Thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and I love you," and just those simple words are transformative. You know, just the Hawaiian spiritual practice, it focuses on forgiveness, responsibility, and inner peace. And when you're able to let go and get yourself to that zero limit, because we're not when we get upset about things and grabbing hold of your thoughts and the idea that you're responsible for your happiness and your unhappiness, it comes down to each thought that you have, and in what you're gonna choose to think. And even for me, when I'm in traffic and I'm mad, like, get out of my way, and you're driving like that, like, I have to catch myself and say, wait a minute, are you really mad, Cindy? Are you really mad? Or are you just, because we're not really mad, you're remembering. We're made up of memories. Um, and that's what we're stuck in. So when you can clear the memories and clear that karma, that's when things transform. So if anybody is looking to transform their life and work on spiritual healing for themselves, I totally recommend Joe Vitale's Zero Limits. Um, they, they, Dr. I'm going to say his name wrong, but I Kaya Henlu, he cured a whole mental facility of criminally mentally ill people, just by working on himself with the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is "Thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you." It's that simple. He practiced Ho'oponopono by working on himself and saying, why am I upset right now? Am I upset at that person, or am I upset about a memory I had, or the imprints, those memories and imprints that have been left on me? And when you're able to um, thank yourself for the experience, and say sorry for any part in that, in taking accountability there, um, and thank you, and showing gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful. If you ever get yourself into a negative zone, just show some gratitude for something that you pull yourself out of it really quick. And please forgive me, because ultimately, when you say you're sorry, that moves the mountain. So once you're able to clear that, you're able to pave the way for new positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't. I know I told you I wouldn't interrupt, but we can barely hear you. Your mic is like, is it an
Oh,
external mic?
hold on one second. Hold on here. I just didn't want it to touch. How's that better?
That's much better. But
Okay, sorry about
because
that.
you were fake going soft, and then like one word would be loud and then soft again. So
Sorry.
I didn't want you to have to repeat everything.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I'm not sure where I should pick up, or where you want me to go with it, but the whole Ho'oponopono prayer, just to wrap it up, is extremely powerful. And it's just accepting and forgiving and showing gratitude. And it's easy as "Thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you." In any instance that you need it, you just say those 4 words, and things are going to transform for you.
Right, because the bottom line that I learned through my spiritual path in the metaphysics and having awareness of this, what you're talking about, everything is an energy frequency. And so when you start to realize that and see it for what it is, you start to realize a lot of the things that were starting to trigger you don't trigger you because you realize they're not what you think they are. Something else is the trigger. And so you start to become aware. So I'm curious, with your spiritual background, doing these paranormal things, Do you ever feel like energy that when you're like, this energy is not from here?
Yeah,
It comes from another dimension or another
hmm
timeline
yeah,
or outer space, but it's definitely not from this house.
yeah. I do believe 100% that everything is happening all at once. And the earth is going in and out of different vibrations and different frequencies. There's so one thing I've been learning is healing frequencies with healing rods that we can actually like cure cancer with just this like frequency and stuff. So I really have been studying with these, and anytime I get a boo boo, I'm like, let me get some frequencies on it. So that's really important. And but what happens is, and I think it's kind of why we don't always see Bigfoot, or or there are up here we've got in the Bridgewater Triangle pudgewudgies. They stand about this tall. They look like a hedgehog. They got spears. And I think that when the Earth goes in and out of certain dimensions or certain frequencies, from outside forces like planets or comets or AI Atlas, whatever is going on there, come through. We're changing the vibration, and you're able to see different things come through. I was on the front of the boat of the USS Salem warship, and I felt something that was going around my legs, and I was like, what is going on here? Because this is not a person. This is not anybody that's ever been here before. And there were a couple theories in the group as to what I was experiencing. One person felt it was like a water sprite of some sort, like an elemental, of some sort. One thing about the USS Salem is it went to Greece. I think it was, don't quote me on it, but 1945, they had a really bad um, earthquake. And so the boat was sent over to Greece to be more of like a medic ship. Um, and there were a lot of babies that weren't born, that perished. So one of the members of the group felt like it was the spirit of the unborn children playing around my feet. They were comfortable around me. They felt that they were just souls that hadn't made it here yet, and that they were trying for my attention. So there's a lot of different theories. There's a lot of different reasons why I believe we have some trans medium friends that are able to communicate, with different beings on different, each planet is a different frequency and it has different beings. Our brain can only kind of like make sense of what we know in this dimension, in the second dimension, and the fourth dimension, but it really, we probably can't even fathom, what these beings are made out of, or how they can come in and out, but they're able to contact us and they're able to communicate. Bashar is a popular one that, when I'm looking for some good washing the dishes podcast, I like listening to Bashar, which is Daryl Brecka, and he channels him. For me, I personally never have channeled anything where I was able to talk to a different kind of entity, other than like a spirit, a ghost, or a spirit of a soul that was here before. I have easier time communicating with them, but I have had moments with different beings where I do recognize that they were not human here in this dimension. But I think we're surrounded by everything. I have theories about why the ocean is so salty, and is crazy. Here we go. The people in the nice truck are going to bring that nice white coat that ties in the back for me. So, but when we look at the purpose of salt as a neutralizer, is it possible that our ocean, which takes up the majority of this world here, is keeping the two worlds separate? So I kind of wonder sometimes if that's the case, with the separation of the different dimensions using the salty waters that just overtake our planet here. Um, so that's probably a little bit too much for a lot of people, but it is a possibility in my head because I see different cultures and ancient civilizations using salt to neutralize spirits. I think it's just kind of common knowledge that you can throw salt over your shoulder or put it in front of your doorway to prevent beings to come in. And then just my brain starts going down these rabbit holes and saying, everything's happening all at once, but what's keeping those worlds separate?
It's interesting you bring up like the salt water in the oceans because one ocean is actually salt water, the other is fresh water. And if memory serves right, the Pacific is the salt, and the Atlantic is supposed to be more of the fresh water. And what's interesting is I don't know if you've ever seen the photos, but when the Pacific and the Atlantic meet, they don't mix.
They don't
One,
mix.
you can see a straight line, and there's
Mm-hmm.
color variation, and there's no like bleed over. It is like perfect line. And so every time I see that, I think there's got to be a barrier there because it just doesn't make sense how salt water and fresh water are mixing in the same spot, but they're not mixing. And so that always caught my interest in it's not just the ocean. Anywhere where you have a salt water and a freshwater mixture, they separate and they have a line that they do not cross. And it's like, it almost is like unnatural, but it's natural.
Right. Just water in itself is like a miracle, and it's miraculous. And I don't think we know nearly as much about it as we probably should, considering I think like 60-70% of us is made of us. But when you look at you know, you see those like simple experiments where they talk bad to the water and it turns like cloudy and dark, and you
Oh,
talk
yeah.
nice to the water, and this is where science comes in, and you talk nice to the water, and then you have these beautiful crystals forming and stuff. It really makes you understand how powerful words are and how powerful vibrations are. And then when you think about how much we are, like I said, made of water, and how we talk to ourselves, is just shows that there's something there that we really need to pay attention to as far as our words and what comes out of our mouth, and our our attitude and our vibration, because it's very, very powerful. And I think it's natural, but it's also unnatural. Like if you really do a deep dive into it and really think about it, this is what we're made out of, and our words has been proven that it affects how it is going to be, and what qualities it gives off. So water is really powerful. It's also a mover of the paranormal. When I have paranormal investigations on rainy days, um, I know it's going to be hot. I know that those negative ions are up popping off, and the spirits are going to be able to glide on in a little bit easier. So the science behind it is just as important to me as the phenomena behind it.
Well, and to take it a step further, I don't know if you're familiar with the Russian study where they had two plants that were identical and they separated them and put one on one side of a building and the other on another side. So you can imagine there's several walls and several, doorways between the two. So it's not like they can't see each other, they can't know what's going on. And they found if you lit a lighter under one of the leaves, the other one showed the same impact
Wow.
as the one that was on fire. And if you sang positive music to it, both of them started to bloom, even though only one is getting the music. And if you sang like horrible music, like low vibrational music, they would start to wilt, both of them. they were entangled. And so they started thinking, this is where the quantum entanglement theory comes from, that, everything's connected.
Yeah.
And it just is amazing to me when we look at our world, how many things we see that we just write off as, oh, that's just nature. Like, I know in watching Josh Gates's show, there's a forest in Romania that has this thick forest, and then there's a square where no trees grow.
Yep.
And it's not for lack of trying either. They just don't grow. And nobody really pays attention to what that could mean. And I find it so interesting. There's all these little natural anomalies around, and everyone's like, okay, yeah. I mean, we have, I think I know of at least 4 or 5 places in the US alone where gravity runs opposite of what it's supposed to. Like, you can put a car in neutral on the bottom of a hill and it rolls up the hill, which, I mean, come on. Science tells you that is impossible, but yet I've even seen it done on film by a friend of mine.
Yep.
They're in the driver's seat and you can see the cars in neutral,
Mm-hmm.
and you can start to see the light of the for the road above the hill, and you're like, and it's getting closer and closer, and it's like, what in the world? And like cans roll up instead of down, and it's just we are so ingrained that, oh, science knows all the answers, and if it doesn't, we don't pay attention, that all these things just get missed or they don't get talked about, and so
Mm-hmm.
people just forget and don't put any weight towards. And I'm glad that you're one of those that's like, when you come across it, you're like, oh no, we're not just putting a light on it, we're putting every light on it
Yeah.
and making it known. And so you had a comment in your bio that really kind of stuck out at me, and I even used it as a tag and on a network platform, and it stuck out to me, and it was like, that is the most coolest thing. And that is your line, step beyond fear and into discovery, where history, mystery, and the unexplained collide. I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
is such a perfect, beautiful description of the paranormal.
This is it. We live in a really magical world, and we're just so busy every day doing whatever we have to do to get by, that we don't pay attention to how miraculous the world is. Quantum consciousness is a real thing. I've just started out remote viewing. I'm really practicing remote viewing, where my friend moved to Kentucky, and I remote viewed into her closet and told her about where, there's a hook I saw, and it had, a hook like, you get your clothes from the dry cleaner, that little hook there. And that's what it looked like. And she's like, how do you do this? How do you know that? But, you know, when you just get out of your own way and you don't fear, and like I said earlier, all of ancient religions, I make reference to the Bible 365 times. I just find that to be coincidental. That it says, "Don't fear, don't be afraid," and that's the best advice I'm going to give anybody right now that's listening: is do not be afraid. Um, and once you're able to, not be afraid, like I said, the movies don't help. They've got like black-eyed possessed people like coming to chew you up, but really it could be your grandma and she just wants to give you a hug. uh, you know but it is, the world is very magical, and it's on the tips of our fingers. Just don't be afraid, have faith, and be curious, and be open-minded, and the absolute incredible anomalies in magic is right there in front of you, and you're going to experience it.
That's very true. And One thing I'm curious about, because I know from metaphysics, forgiveness has a different connotation than a lot of people realize, to the point where I started to realize forgiveness for me is I only need to forgive myself, my part, and everything else is up to whoever was involved in their part. But I don't take on and say we got to forgive the whole. It's no. I only work on my part, own my part, and I kind of have found that a lot of weight and pressure and everything's been lifted because that's a huge task when you think about forgiving a whole experience.
Hmm.
And I'm just curious, with your spiritualism and your, work with the church and the paranormal, what's your viewpoint and take on forgiveness?
So, just emotions have energetic patterns. We know that anger, hatred, guilt, resentment, those are low vibrating, patterns. And then we have love, compassion, and those are high vibrating. But forgiveness is how you transform it. It's the adjective, it's the mover, it's the transmutation. It's to how to get from the low to the high is that forgiveness. And that's where the Ho'oponopono prayer is so powerful because you just are forgiving yourself for the memories and the patterns that don't serve you anymore. And once you're able to forgive that, that's when real transformation and healing happens. You have to realize that you are responsible for creating your reality, and you just have to just say forgive yourself for the memories and the patterns and the imprints that don't serve you, um, and and you forgive yourself and you let go of those things. And when you're able to do that, that forgiveness transmutes and transforms you into where you want to be, which I think for everybody is just happy. That's it. Um, Love is the most powerful, and really that's all anything really it ends up in is love. It really just comes down to that. Love is the only thing that is real.
That's very true, and we are getting close to the hour. Do you have time to go longer
Yeah, we could
or
go a
more?
little bit longer. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You have more questions? Yeah, absolutely love it.
So, one question I have for you, and it kind of goes with the forgiveness angle, and it might push your spiritualism. I don't know where you're at with it. So, if it does go into an area that you're not familiar with, just let me know. But when you are dealing with, like you're saying, seeing patterns in life, and you're like, hey, this, no longer serves me, do you only forgive and look at the current where you're at in this life, or do you go and say, there's past life history and there's history and genealogy, all of that needs to be addressed. And so, is this coming from there, or is it
Um,
really coming from now?
so I believe in Christ consciousness. Like Jesus is our master teacher. He's master healer. And when a soul comes to this dimension, it splits itself into 12 identities, which are the 12 apostles. You have 12 different realities, dimensions that you split yourself into, and each of them are learning a lesson. Um, and I believe that um, when you are a person that when you start recognizing um, how am I going to word this? The DNA has memory. Okay, everything that made you to who you are to be in this has memory. And when you're unable to lock those DNA strands 1 through 6, you are able to get the full human experience. And that's when you get to remember all of the different lives that you've lived. It's all in your DNA. You just have to unlock it by activating it. Meditation, the different chakras are all aligned with those. Um, and so when you start opening up your heart chakra or your solar plexus, for example, you're unlocking different memory strands in your DNA, and that consciousness is running in and out of you like a string up into the divine there. We're all a little bit of a spark of the divine. I believe that wholeheartedly. You have a soul and you have a spirit, and your spirit is the spark that's given to you, which is part of God, because we are all divine beings. It's like when I see so much suffering, it kills me because in a split second that suffering can go away because we're so powerful. Um, so if I again can give anyone ever some advice, don't be afraid. Trust in yourself because who you are made of is inside you. You just have to unlock it. Different frequencies, different vibrations, meditations, and the chakras. Once you're able to unlock those different parts of yourself, you're able to remember who you are, and that's your soul.
Interesting. And I find it interesting you only reference the 12 apostles and not the 13 that
No,
you,
just
because you do know who the 13th apostle was, right?
who's the 13th apostle, Mike?
Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene. She's very important, very, very important lady there.
Yeah, she was actually the first apostle they found through looking at some of the books that were removed from the Bible. And
Mm-hmm.
before everybody starts messaging me about religion,
Here we
I'm not
go.
bringing this up to change your religion. I'm just stating what I've read and what I feel is a truth for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
don't come
I
after
definitely.
me for it.
Yeah, I
But
recommend everyone be open-minded to the Ethiopian Bible. They all of the books that were left out of different versions of the Bible. Those stories are there, and particularly the Book of Enoch has my attention right now. Um, you know, because the story of you know the word I'm looking for is the Merkaba. You are able to move, in and out of your different dimensions and all your different lives via the Merkaba. So I definitely wish everyone to be open-minded about different versions of the Bible that are out there. And I don't, like I said, I don't. I just use discernment with religion. Because there are parts of the King James Bible that I'm solid on. I'm solid. I believe it. I believe it actually happened. I 100% believe Jesus is our master teacher in becoming a Christ. It's not Jesus Christ. It's Jesus the Christ. Pretty sure. You can fact check me there on that one. And there are so many beautiful verses of the Bible, and I've referred to not being afraid 365 times, and we all live forever. It's the first thing it tells you is nobody's dying, but we just kind of like skip over that part. And then I think about the Leviticus, is the 1920, where if a slave woman is promised to another man, that man must be punished. And then I have to ask myself, did the creator of the universe say that, or was that man? And so there's a lot of discernment with it, and I look toward what feels right and what vibes right with my soul, and I go with my gut feeling.
well, and one thing too that I'll not to point out the fallacies of the book or anything is I look at and when we say it's impossible she could be an apostle because she was a woman, and I go, well, you had Judas who for what was it, 2010 years, give or take a couple, was the betrayer. Now he's the apostle who everybody said, oh, he was told to betray. He, did the most divine act. And so he has now been venerated. But yet, Mary Magdalene's role is still in dispute. And it's like, and people are like, nope, can't be true. And I'm like, well, if Judas got vindicated, why can't Mary? And so I think it's just a little bit humorous to me when I look at scenarios and look at people's reactions, how one person who did the worst act in the Bible is now okay, everybody's buddy, he's forgiven, everything's good. And the woman who did absolutely nothing to anybody but walked around and supported the apostles is still half believing she's still the prostitute and half believing no, she's not the prostitute, but she's no way an apostle. It's like, really? When are we going to allow reality to be reality and stop trying to put limitations on it and make it fit agendas and let it be what it is and stop arguing semantics? That's just my personal viewpoint, and I know a lot of people are like that, and I'm gonna get off this religious tantrum because I just know it's gonna get me in trouble. But yeah, and so what advice do you have for people in stepping beyond the fear and knowing they're about to step into discovery? You're muted. Cynthia, you muted yourself.
I swear I didn't touch it. Um, um, the best advice I can give anyone is to trust yourself and to try it out, and just for shits and giggles. I don't know if I could say that, but just for kicks. Um, ask grandma to give you a sign. Ask that friend that passed away, when you were, years and years ago, to give you a knock at the door, or a sign, or ask for it and be open to it and take a moment to pay attention to what's going on around you, and consider what happens. That's the best advice I can give anyone, is to have your own personal experience. I also want to suggest that you message me and I take you on a tour of these great locations, so that you can experience the equipment that we use and the techniques that we use to try to communicate with those departed. But simple things that you can do by yourself is to, one, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Um, all of the religions tell you not to be afraid, no matter what they are, and give it a try and ask, that loved one, that passed, or that friend, that long lost pal, or even a pet. How about that childhood pet, to give you a sign, and that sign, and be open to it, and it will come. One extraordinary moment happened. We had in the 80s here up in where I live, between New Bedford and Wareham, which is called the South Coast of Massachusetts. We had a serial killer. The highway um, murders, and me and another medium were driving up and down the highway, talking to these dead women. And I said, listen, can I just have a sign of where your body was? Can you give me a sign as to where they found you? This is decades and lifetimes ago. I was just a little girl, maybe 10 years old when all that happened. So I wouldn't know pinpoint where on the highway it was. And as we come around the bend, there's a red balloon on the side of the highway. What are the chances? What are the chances that that red balloon was on the side of the highway for me? But I was open to it, and I asked, and I just give it a shot. What do you got to lose?
That's true. And one thing I will add is when you ask for a sign, don't ask for something you're not prepared to receive, because even I know television shows are for entertainment value, and some of the shows do have some really good information, but one episode in particular, Destination Fear, I give a lot of respect to Dakota because he went into a room and asked them to knock, and they knocked really hard, and he screamed and ran out. But then he came back in, and this is the part where he gained a lot of respect to me, in my opinion. He said, I know I asked you to knock, and you did, and I ran out, and I want to apologize. But can you do it again to let me know, you're there? And I was thinking, you're a TV celeb on a paranormal show. Running out, that's almost like scripted. You're supposed to do that. But he was the first I ever saw walk in and apologize to the ghost or spirit or whoever was there and explain why he did what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was like, wow.
Yeah. When I go and I start off these locations, I always introduce myself like they were standing in front of me in human form. And I say, my name is Cynthia. I'm here to hear your story. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm here to maybe give someone a message for you or listen to what happened. And I just treat them with respect and just having respect for what's going on in front of you, and be open to what could possibly be. I don't, like I said, I don't believe in demons anymore, because they're your demons. When they say face your demons, if anything abnormal is going on, it's probably because you caused it to go on. So forgive yourself. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. And move on from the moment and in those entities. Not to say that there aren't darker outside forces. You have to have it. For good to exist, bad has to exist. It's just the rules. And when you respect it, you just see things a little bit differently, because the good days are good because the bad days exist. And when you're able just to take a deep breath and get through those bad moments, and get to the good moments, that's where life really starts to flourish, and you start to grow as a person, and you start to learn your lessons. And that's why we're here, on this journey to learn and fear and help each other. I think one of the best ways to deal with bad energy, negative energy, and bad thoughts and depression and things like that, is just to be kind to each other. Be extra kind. If you're having a bad day, be extra kind. Offer someone help. Offer someone maybe just an ear. Um, no judgment, and just let someone just be who they are, and forgive when you can. When the person cuts you off on the highway and you want to throw them the finger, instead take that moment to say, listen, I forgive you, because maybe someday I'm going to cut somebody off on accident, and I'm going to need some forgiveness too. And just kind of go about that with that kind of attitude. Not to say that when I'm at a ghost at a ghost hunt, I don't say, I only want to talk to who's my highest and best good, and those that walk in the light. Um, But it's not to say that I don't respect the darker side of things, because it has to exist. The bad guy has to exist for there to be a good guy.
It's interesting you say that because I had a spiritual awareness of energy is energy. It's neither good nor bad. We're the one who defines it. And so when you say you have to have bad to have good, I just look at it as energy and being like, it's interesting that we have to, in our minds, go, oh, well, you're a good energy. You're a bad energy. It's
Yeah.
like we don't ever sit there and go, oh, there's energy here.
Yeah,
Like
we
we
gotta
always feel we
categorize.
have to define it. And I'm starting to find that's actually kind of interesting because I've talked to beings and I always thought there was good ones and bad ones. And they said, we just are. Your perception is defining who we are. We're not defining ourselves. And so I realized, wow. And so I've had to take a step back, and now I'm like, I am very careful about when I say good or bad because I'm like, is it or is this my
Yeah.
filter? And I want to acknowledge it for what it is and go, wow, that's energy. There's
Yeah.
energy. And just,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's an old Chinese Oriental legend where, the farmer, his horses run away, and everyone in town's like, that's terrible, and he says maybe. And then his son runs off to collect the horses, and they're like, hey, your son brought the horses back, that's great, and he's like, maybe. And then the son breaks his leg, and he says, oh, that's terrible, and the farmer says maybe. And then the next day, the military runs through recruiting people for war, and they don't take the son because he's got the broken leg. So, like, which is good? So I don't,
yeah,
enjoy that broken leg because it may have saved your life.
yeah. And there's a funny adage that I remember as a kid where this person would walk down, fill this pitcher with water, carried it over his shoulders, and by the time he got up, it would be empty. And someone goes, well, there's a crack in the bottom. And he goes, yeah. He goes, so you wasted your time bringing that water up here because now you got to go back. He goes, yeah. And they're like, well, why do you do it? And he goes, well, I do it because I can. And they're like, well, what do you get out of it? I was like, he goes, I get nothing, but look at the flowers on the side of the path.
Yeah.
They're loving it. And so I feel gracious that I'm able to help water them and feed them. And they're all like, oh, good point. The flowers wouldn't be there if he had fixed the crack and never spilled water. And so it to me it's like everybody goes, oh yeah, that's that. I go, yeah, but what you don't realize is from the spiritual metaphysical viewpoint, I look at that and go, I can be totally flawed and serve the greatest purpose in the world. I don't have to be perfect. And so life takes on a whole new connotation and a whole new perspective. And then I was like, I read later in a indigenous tale where this Indian is sitting there and they go, how are you so calm? And he goes, well, there's two wolves inside of me. One is angry and wants to lash out. The other one is calm, protective, and peaceful. And so when I need to fight, I feed the angry wolf.
Yep.
when there is no war, I feed the peaceful serenity wolf. And he goes, well, how do you know which one you're going to be? He goes, the one I feed.
That's right.
And so you have to look at, we all are in balance. We're both feminine, masculine. We're both, light, dark, if you want to call it that. We are the perfect balance, but it depends on who we're going to show up as, is which side is being fed, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to look at.
Yep. And it's your choice.
Yeah. And the beauty of choice is you can feed the light one, and if you realize you're not making any ground and it's not the way you want, you can feed a different light side and
Anytime. You can
change
change
path.
anytime, even after you pass.
Yep. The only time you can't make a change super easy is when you get married. That one you got a legal document. Yeah, that's going to be a costly change. So
Yeah.
think about that one before,
Yeah.
really hard before you make that one.
That's right. Awesome.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so what do you think was your favorite aha moment that solidified everything that you're looking to prove or looking to your mission to be,
Yeah.
that you can say, this is where it happened? And so now that I've had it, I'm going to keep going.
Oh, wow. Gosh, I've had so many of those moments. I lost my job in 2023, and I said, if I don't have a job right now, and I'm trying to still find my way of what I want to do, then I'm going to work on me. And I knew that I was really interested in the First Spiritualist Church of Onset, and I knew I wanted to work on my health, and I wanted to work on my fitness, and I wanted to work on me. And sometimes I think we just get so caught up in every day we forget to take care of ourselves. So I said, if I have this troubled moment where I have to find a new job and I have this time on my hands, then I want to spend that time, improving myself. And when I did that and I committed to that and I went to the church, open-minded, open heart. We had one of the speakers, and forgive me, I can't recall her name at the time, but I saw the spirits lined up next to her. They were like upside down, glowing U's of gold, and they were lined up next to her. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, am I really seeing this? And so that moment when I said, I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to take care of my spiritual side that I've been neglecting. I'm going to take care of my physical side that I've been neglecting. When I took care of those things and I made them a priority, like a real priority, because it's really easy to not, that's when spirit side opened up for me. And I was like, oh, wow, what is this world that I haven't seen? So it was really that moment where I decided to put self-care first and put me first. And I just encourage anybody out there to just, love yourself, forgive yourself for the things that haven't worked for you in the past. They're just memories. And you're probably not even remembering exactly what happened. You're probably remembering just the memory of you remembering it. And then, really, what are you remembering and what are you upset about? And so when you can just have those tough moments and forgive yourself and move on and put yourself first, that's really when the universe goes, aha, I'll show you all this magical stuff and let you know that this world that you live in is far more mystical and magical than what you're really seeing right now. And you can remember who you are, who you really are.
And I love that you bring that up, because one of the things I like to point out, and you'll love this because your history, is in Greece, the first doctor who created the Hippocratic Oath, the very first statement he said was, Rule number 1, physician, heal thyself. So that means put yourself first. You have to take care of yourself first.
I've got it on my wrist. I got the tattoo on my wrist. It's on my wrist.
And somewhere in history, it became physicians take care of everybody else. And it's selfish to take care of yourself. And so we are so ingrained that now it's like if you were to say to someone, take a day for yourself, we're like, oh no, I can't do that. No. It's like this bad thing. Where in reality, that's the greatest gift we can give ourselves is a day to just be ourselves. And if we want to process some stuff, we can. If we want to just be present and just do nothing, that is perfectly fine too. There's no judgments or no requirements, but putting yourself and your care first. And I think once we all start doing that, I think the world will be a better place.
Without a doubt.
We need to bring that back, in other words, and put it in the where it rightfully belongs.
Mm-hmm.
What are your
Bumper
thoughts
stickers. We'll
around
put it
that?
on bumper stickers.
Yeah.
We'll do some marketing on it. We'll put on bumper stickers, T-shirts, hats.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, how that's changed and how it was in the beginning, taking care of yourself is number one priority to today? How do you think we lost that? What happened, do you think?
Yeah, I just think, for some reason, the world in which we live wants us to forget. Dolores Cannon, she's a great speaker. I try to listen to her, the work that she's done. We come here and we forget who we are because we got to remember who we are, and that's our purpose here. Earth is a really hard lesson school. It's heavy. There's a lot of despair here, and sadness and hard feelings. But I do feel strongly that it's our responsibility to accept it and move on from it and transmute it. And that's the lesson of Earth. So when you look at it as like a school, or a lesson, or a learning experience, things can change for you because nothing is set in stone and everything is mutable. And I think it's really important for everyone to know that, that your current situation, no matter what it is, can change at any time. And you got to ebb and flow with that, and understand that the hard times, and accept that the hard times, and not dwell on them. And I think that over time we just get so wrapped up in technology and the latest this, and like I said, marketing, like what are they trying to sell to us now, and social media, and comparison, and we've lost that authenticity and the importance of authenticity, in being able just to be yourself and be okay, because we just live in such a critical world, but we're in control. And when you recognize that, you can do something about it. When you get those thoughts, you can do something about it. And I just think it's just something that maybe always been. I don't know that we were happier in the 50s or we were happier in the 60s. They still had, or the 70s, or maybe the 80s. They were pretty happy in the 80s it's good times, right? Everybody was having a good time. And maybe I'm wrong in saying that. Probably if we looked at depression rates and statistics like that, we might see that overall we're maybe a little bit sadder as collectively as a conscious. Maybe some people believe that, but I think it's just because we're all wrapped up in this facade that we're in, and once you're able just to kind of have a good talk with yourself and pull yourself out of that moment, you're able to change it. But I'm not sure why. Sometimes I feel like it's like it's programmed to have us forget who we are. Like they would prefer, maybe the handlers would prefer us not understand how powerful we are, because if they did understand how, if we did, each of us understood that you could have whatever you wanted whenever you wanted. I'm not sure what kind of world that would be at that point, but I think it scares somebody out there at some point in time, that they kind of want to muffle that on us, and maybe that's why there's fluoride in our water,
Yeah.
or or things like psyops and false, things like that are thrown at us all the time, because they for whatever reason don't want us to remember that we are magical beings capable of incredible things. So that's probably another episode
Oh
of a
yeah.
different topic, to go down, the elite handlers that dictate how we're going to feel every day. So, but just know that your life is yours, and everything can change just with one thought. That's it. Just one little thought. You just grab that thought and you can change it at any time.
Very true. And as we're getting close to the hour and a half mark, um, you put out a video where you stated all the topics that you wanted to talk about tonight. I'm just curious, did we get to them all,
I
or?
think we did. I think we did. The history is something that we can touch on another time. I would love to come back again, because I think we could probably take on a lot of topics. But the whole point of this is just to let your listeners know that I have experienced, and I'm not trying to get ratings and I'm not trying to get followers. I just am trying to show people these experiences that I've had the privilege of experiencing over the last 7 years, and these magical moments where, like, did that just happen? And realizing that it did, and just to give everybody a little bit of hope out there, and maybe some tools and techniques to go ahead and change the things in their life that might be troubling them. And if one of those things is the loss of a loved one or a pet, or something close to you, just know that you can just speak out loud and they can hear you. And if you're open to it, you can get a sign, and maybe that there would be a little bit of peace there for somebody.
Very true and well said. And is there? How can people find you then?
My Facebook is probably the best. The Spookiest Things Experience in the Paranormal Facebook. You can certainly message me on there, or Cynthia Whitney. My regular Facebook is great. Um, so if you're ever in Massachusetts, particularly near Cape Cod, definitely reach out. I would love to have you on one of our tours.
You can count on it, and I would be one of the few that would actually, because I love when you go on ghost tours and everybody says raise your hand if you're a ghost hunter or anything, and nobody ever raises their hand, and I'm like slowly raise my hand, and so it's like everybody that starts to watch everything you do, and I'm like, one of these days I'm gonna have so much fun doing a ghost tour and be like, I'll do that cliche Hollywood going and act like I'm getting stuff and be like, everybody going, what'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get? Oh, I totally saw this, this, and this. Really? No, it doesn't work that way. It just be like the guy that pushes them up the hype and then down to reality real quick. I'm like, I actually did that though once. Is I was on a ghost tour and I took photos of this courtyard, and this guy walks up and goes, "What did you get?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I have to take it home and upload it on a computer to see what all I seen on there. My camera doesn't, do that." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And meanwhile, in my head, what I'm playing out in my head is going, yeah, see, mister, there's a spirit here, there's an orb there, there's a shadow here. It's like, it's not instant, people. And so, yeah, I kind of a little bit fault the television shows because Ghost Hunters, when they first came out, they would tell you, like, this is day one, day two, evidence review day, and then the
Right.
big reveal. And so you knew there was time.
Hmm.
Now it's they start, and then at the end of the hour, they're like, here's your results. And it's like,
Yeah.
did you seriously just do that in an hour of footage?
Editing is incredible.
Yeah.
I wish it would come that fast on regular. Sometimes we have nights where the ghosts come in hot and heavy and clear, and there's other nights we sit there and it's womp womp womp. So either one.
You know, I have a theory, though, for every night that you're constantly getting stuff on your equipment and through your senses, the same thing is on the ones that nothing happens. And so I just want to say, Cynthia, from my heart and the heart of my show to you, thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along because you never know when she's going to be back on. And I put the donation link if anyone feels so inclined to donate to the show to keep these going. I greatly appreciate it.
Mhm.
And we were going to call it a night. And have a wonderful night, everyone. If you're near me, stay safe from the storm. It has arrived. So, blessings to you. We'll definitely have Cynthia back on, so keep an eye out for that. And have a great night, everyone.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.